Welcome guys to Mariem Banales Learning and Playing channel. Today I'm going to the Mariem Banales Learning channel. Well, today I am going to read My Weird School Fast Facts, Explorers, Presidents, and Toilets. But this is actually going to be part 2, and if you want to watch all the parts that I do for this book, you can also watch part 1. And the book is by Gutman, and the pictures are by Jim Pally, that's the illustrator. So let's start, and we left on page 41, and it was right here. Okay, let's start. I wonder if they dumped sugar and milk into the harbor too. Did you ever taste tea without sugar and milk? Ugh, disgusting. To this day, nobody knows for sure who dumped the tea. The people who did it never revealed their names because they didn't want to get punished. We do know that one man named John Crane, got knocked unconscious by a flying tea crate. The other patriots thought he was dead, and they hid his body under a pile of wood shavings. But the joke was on them, because Crane woke up a few hours later. Surprise! The King of England, King George III, got really crazy after the Boston Tea Party. With the King's approval, Parliament closed the port, sent more soldiers, and told the colonists they had to give the soldiers food and lodging. Well, you can imagine how that went over with the colonists. Some of them got together in Philadelphia to talk about what to do next. It was called the First Continental Congress. People started to whisper about declaring independence from England and forming their own country. Isn't this exciting, Arlo? And Arlo says, no. Are they going to get mad? Let's see. Arlo, sometimes I think you just like to disagree with everything I say, no matter what it is. I do not. Anyway, the war obviously broke out on April 1775 at Lexington and Concord in Massachusetts. The British soldiers were called redcoats because their uniforms were red. So they had the perfect name. Yes, and the redcoats were planning to capture the colonists' supply of gunpowder. That's the powder you put into guns. So it had the perfect name too. Can you please stop interrupting, Arlo? Nobody cares about what things have the perfect name. Anyway, the colonists were waiting with their guns, and the redcoats were forced to retreat. And the colonists shouted, "Na, na, na, boo, boo," at them. Arlo, I really doubt that they shouted, "Na, na, na, boo, boo." Hey, you don't know you weren't there. The next big battle was called the Battle of Bunker Hill. Even though the battle really took place on nearby Breach Hill. So it didn't have the perfect name. Shh! The British were planning to camp out in the hills, which were across the river from Boston. But Patriot spies discovered the plan, and the night before the British were going to arrive, the Patriots beat down to it and built a fort on Breach Hill. The British couldn't believe their eyes when they woke up the next morning. Ha! In their face! The patriots must have yelled, "Na, na, na, boo, boo," at them then, right? No, but according to legend, during the battle, someone yelled, "Don't shoot until you see the whites of their eyes." After that battle, the Second Continental Congress named George Washington the commander in chief of the army. He told Congress he would take the job without pay, and he did for 8 years. Wow, that's a long time. Wow, that's like a long time to go without making any money. That's exactly what I say right now. Well, only a long time, yeah. But I guess in those days, they didn't have movies or video games or malls where they could buy stuff anyway. So it probably didn't matter. Do you know what was one of the first things Washington did when he arrived in Massachusetts? Go to the bathroom. That's what I do after a long trip. No! He asked how much gunpowder the Patriots had. When he was told that they only had 36 barrels, Washington was so upset that he couldn't talk for 15 minutes. So, do you know what George Washington did next? Let's find out. He went to the bathroom. He went to the bathroom? No. He sent spies into Boston to spread the rumor that they had so much gunpowder they didn't know what to do with it all. The British believed it and didn't attack. Ha! That gives me a good idea for a way to get out of doing homework. Just tell the teacher that you did so much homework that you didn't know what to do with it all. That probably won't work, Arlo. But the Patriots had to use tricks like that because they didn't have the money or supplies to defeat the British. Some of the soldiers in the Continental Army had no shoes. They left bloody footprints in the snow. They couldn't afford a navy, so they hired pirates to attack British merchant ships. Pirates are cool. I like when they say "oh" and all the time and dance around on pig legs with a parrot on their shoulder. I think that only happens with pirates on TV, Arlo. Anyway, Washington faked out the British again later in the war. He let them think he was going to attack New York. He even had engineers prepare what looked like a major camp in New Jersey. Complete with enough ovens to bake thousands of loaves and bread, the British got ready to defend New York. Meanwhile, Washington's army was sailing south to attack Yorktown, Virginia. That was the final battle of the year. Man, those British dudes would fall for anything. Here's an interesting story. Arlo. One of the men who helped George Washington defeat the British was from France. His title was the Marquis de Lafayette. He was a major general. But the most interesting part is that when he joined the Continental Army, Lafayette was just 19 years old. Yes, you read that right. 19. He was a teenager. Wow, that is so surprising. And right here, the Marquis de Lafayette, 1791. And this is a picture of him right here sitting. Okay. I wonder if that Lafayette kid had to take time off from school. He probably had to get permission from his parents. I can just imagine the conversation Lafayette had with his mother. Hey, Mom, can I go to America to help them fight their war for independence? No. Sorry, not until you finished your homework. You can't. Mom. First homework, then war, young man. Okay. Chapter 4. The Declaration of Independence. So, the Revolutionary War had been going on for a year when the colonists decided that, maybe it would be a good idea to declare that we are a separate country from England. Thomas Jefferson from Virginia was given the job of putting that declaration in writing. Jefferson wrote the first draft of the Declaration of Independence, but some other guys helped him, and two of them were Benjamin Franklin and John Adams. All in all, 86 changes were made to Jefferson's first draft. This is the most famous sentence in the Declaration of Independence. Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. By the way, the word independence never appears in the Declaration of Independence. Signing the Declaration was dangerous. The signers were committing treason against their king and the British government. Treason was a crime punishable by death. In fact, Benjamin Franklin told the group, "We must all hang together, or assuredly we shall all hang separately." Ben Franklin was a riot. I bet he was a lot of fun at parties. So over here, I'm going to go back and show you the picture. I'm going to put it more closer. And this right here is Benjamin Franklin. You see that? Wow. Okay, so next page. Here's a good question to ask your parents. How many of the men were signed the Declaration of Independence were born in the United States? The answer, none of them. They couldn't have been born in the United States because the United States didn't exist as a country until they signed the Declaration. In fact, the first time the words United States of America appeared, it was in the Declaration of Independence. The first person to sign the Declaration was John Hancock, because he was the president of the Continental Congress. He wrote his name really big, almost 5 inches wide. Because of that, his name became part of the language. If you ever hear somebody say, "Put your John Hancock here," it means to sign your name there. Benjamin Franklin was 70 years old, and he was the oldest person to sign the Declaration. The two youngest signers were Thomas Lynch Jr. and Edward Rutledge. Both of them were 26, and both were from South Carolina. 24 of the 56 signers were lawyers, and all the signers were men. Not a single woman signed the Declaration. That's not fair. 2 future presidents signed the Declaration, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. When the Declaration was signed in 1776, the population of the United States was about 2 a 500,000 people. Today, it's over 323 million. Wow. Women wouldn't even be allowed to vote for another 144 years. And that's true, guys. Susan B. Anthony, she was so mad that she wanted to vote and they didn't let her. And she was once arrested. And then in 1920, when she was dead already, they let women vote. And now we can vote. Yay! 200 copies of the Declaration were printed. Only 26 of them are still around. If you find one, hang on to it. In 1989, a guy bought an old picture frame for $4 at a flea market in Pennsylvania. And you'll never believe in 100 years what he found behind the picture. One of those 200 declarations. Wow. The TV producer, Norman Lear, bought it for more than $8 million. Wow. The original signed parchment copy of the Declaration is at the National Archives building in Washington, D.C. You can go see it there. It has only left the Capitol twice. The first time was when the British attacked Washington during the War of 1812. The second time was during World War II. In the 2004 movie National Treasure, a guy has to steal the Declaration so he can read a secret message written on the back of it. There actually is writing on the back, but it's no secret message. It just says, Original Declaration of Independence, dated 4th of July, 1776. Speaking of the 4th of July, one of our presidents was born on that date, Calvin Coolidge. And here's an amazing coincidence. Two of the founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, both died on the 4th of July in 1826. And that was exactly 50 years after the first Independence Day. Wow. So, both of them died at the same day, same year, same month. Wow. That is impressive. That's weird. Here's the weird thing. We celebrate the 4th of July as our Independence Day, but the Declaration of Independence wasn't signed on July 4. What? You mean the 4th of July is bogus? Calm down, Arlo. Here's what really happened. On July 2, the Second Continental Congress met in Philadelphia and voted in favor of independence. They spent the next 2 days revising Thomas Jefferson's draft. And on July 4, they obviously adopted the Declaration, but they didn't sign it that day. Most of the delegates signed it on August 2. Two of them, John Dickinson and Robert R. Livingston, never signed at all. On July 9, George Washington read the Declaration out loud in front of City Hall. The cheering crowd got so riled up that they tore down a nearby statue of King George III. And do you know what they did with it? They melted it down and made it into more than 42,000 musket balls for the American Army. It must have helped. After 7 years of bloody fighting, the British finally surrendered, and the United States of America was a free and independent country. Yay! I knew all that. You did not. Chapter 5, The Constitution. Here's a little quiz, Arlo. After the United States declared our independence and won the Revolutionary War, what did we need to do next? Go to the bathroom? That war lasted years. We must have been holding in it for a long time. No, Arlo. We needed a constitution. I bet you don't even know that a constitution is a system of values and laws that used to govern a country. I knew that. In fact, I even know that our first constitution back in 1781 was called the Articles of Confederation. But that was when the United States was just a bunch of unconnected states in 1780s. So I'm just gonna put this more closer. I can't really read it. Wait, actually, I think I can. Let me see. So, Articles of Confederation and Perpetual Union between the, I'm not sure what it says right there, states of New Hampshire, Massachusetts Bay, Rhode Island, and Providence Plantation, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Lancaster, painted by Francis Bailey. Articles of the Confederation. Ooh, finally, I read it. I hope you saw it. Alexander Hamilton called for a meeting in Philadelphia, where they decided to write a new constitution that would tie all the states together. Wow, I'm impressed. I thought you only cared about video games and skateboarding. I remember this stuff by imagining the founding fathers skateboarding, playing video games while they were writing the Constitution. Actually, the Constitution was written in the same building in Philadelphia where the Declaration of Independence was signed. And the building is still there today. It's called Independence Hall. 12 of the 13 states sent representatives to work on the Constitution. The only state that didn't send anyone was Rhode Island. I guess they had something more important to do that day. Actually, it was because they didn't want a powerful national government meddling in their business. That too, and the whole thing was top secret. They wrote the Constitution behind locked doors that were guarded by sentries. Do you know who was chosen to be president of the convention? Arlo? Chuck Norris? Ooh, baby, he got it wrong. Actually, I think it was George Washington. Chuck Norris, wow. Yep, you're right. No, dumbhead, it was George Washington. I knew that too. It took the whole summer of 1787 to write the Constitution. And after all that, it's only 4 pages long. That's just 1 page a month. But it was really important document. So they wanted to get it right. It's the oldest and shortest constitution of any major government in the world. The Constitution has 4,400 words in it. I counted. That's about half as long as a My Weird School book. My Weird School books have a great opening. They all start with the words, "My name is AJ and I hate." What does the Constitution start with? We the people. Well, that's pretty good too. Believe it or not, after all that careful work, there are spelling errors in the Constitution. Let me just put it more closer so you guys can see. Well, I'm not going to get to read it because I can't even see a word. So up here it says, "We the people." Wow. Okay. The most obvious one is right above the signers' names. A delegate from Pennsylvania spelled his old state Pennsylvania. Boy, that guy must have been a real dumbhead. He couldn't even spell his old state. Pennsylvania must be really hard for people to spell. It's also misspelled on the Liberty Bell. Too bad they didn't have spell check in those states. While they were writing the Constitution, they had a lot of arguments. Kind of like us, huh? Yeah, one of the biggest fights they had was over slavery. Some of the states wanted to get rid of it. Other states wanted to keep it. In the end, to hold the country together, they agreed to let slavery continue. But they didn't exactly end the argument, because 74 years later, we fought a civil war over the same issue. Finally, on September 17, 1787, the Constitution was finished, and it was ready to be signed. 39 men, yes, they were all men, of course, signed it. George Washington and James Madison were the only presidents who signed the Constitution. Thomas Jefferson and John Adams never signed it. Do you know why? Let's see why. Because they were in the bathroom? That's so funny. No, Arlo. They were in other countries. Thomas Jefferson was representing the United States in France, and John Adams was doing the same thing in England. Maybe they were going to the bathroom in other countries. What is it with you and bathrooms, Arlo? Bathrooms have nothing to do with the history of the United States. Well, obviously that's why it says explorers, presidents, and toilets. Wow. I can't believe it, guys. That's where you're wrong, Andrea. You'll see what I mean in chapter 13. What's chapter 13? Oh, you'll find out. We'll also find out. Did you know that the youngest signer of the Constitution was Jonathan Dayton of New Jersey? He was just 26. The oldest signer was 81 years old, Benjamin Franklin. He could hardly walk, so he was carried into the convention hall every day in a sedan chair by prisoners from the local jail. That's true. And when Franklin was signing the Constitution, he got so emotional that tears were streaming down his face. Either that or they were cutting onions in the next room. I can't even stop laughing, guys. I think I should just ignore you. Only 6 people signed both the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. They were Benjamin Franklin, George Read, Roger, I'm not sure if it's Read or Red. Roger Sherman, Robert Morris, George Clymer, and James Wilson. When the Constitutional Convention was over, Benjamin Franklin pointed at the symbol of a half-sun on George Washington's chair. He said, "I have the happiness to know that it is a rising and not a setting sun." Speaking of George Washington, he was the guy who formally established the first Thanksgiving in 1789. It had nothing to do with pilgrims or Native Americans or turkeys. The reason for the new holiday was to give thanks for the new Constitution. Nobody's perfect. The Constitution wasn't perfect, of course. Nothing's perfect. Well, except for me, of course. But the Founding Fathers knew the world was going to change, and they were smart enough to know they should let future generations make changes in the Constitution. Over 11,000 changes or amendments have been introduced in Congress. Only 27 of them have been approved. The first 10 became known as the Bill of Rights. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery. The 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote. Oh, that's exactly what I was talking about right now about Susan B. Anthony. The 28th Amendment gives kids the right to stay home from school whenever they feel like it. Well, that last one hasn't been ratified yet, but it should be. Okay? Well, I'm going to stop here and part 2. I'm not sure if I'm going to finish all this book. So, I'm going to stop on 82. And remember to stay tuned for every part that I do for my Weird School, Fast Facts, Explorers, and Presidents and Toilets. Well, bye. Stay tuned. Bye, everybody. Stay tuned for my next video.